Hello, I'm Walter Schwabe, host of Gov2 TV. Welcome back to another episode here on Fused Logic TV. I'm excited to know our next guest on the show. Steve Ressler is the founder and president of GovLoop.com, and we're going to dedicate this entire show to GovLoop.com. It's a fascinating portal that Steve has started, and I want to hear the entire story back to back, front and sideways, from Steve. We've got Steve joining us via Skype, and welcome, Steve, to the show. Thanks for being on Gov2 TV.
I love that intro music. That was probably the next club jam coming from Canada.
yeah, it's definitely funky, isn't it? So again, Steve, thanks for being on the show. I want to talk about GovLoop.com for a moment. Actually, the entire show, as I said in the intro. I want people who have never been to GovLoop.com, who maybe aren't members of the community, to learn more about what the site is all about. So why don't you just give us a little history lesson? Start from the beginning. When did it start? When did you launch it? Why did you do it?
Cool. No, and thanks for having me here. And I'm wearing actually my GovLoop shirt today, Government Rockstar. So
boy, you're gonna have to ship one up for me. That's awesome. Yeah.
We will. So basically, the story of GovLoop, and the simple analogy I use is GovLoop.com is the Facebook for government. And basically, what I really mean is it's a knowledge network connecting 45,000 federal, state, local, international government employees. And it's basically a site to help you do your job better. And it basically came out of my experience. I was a government employee. Actually, I'm third generation government employee. My dad worked for IRS for 40 plus years in the U.S., and my grandfather worked in the military and postal service. So we're public service junkies in my family. And when I came into government right out of graduate school, my boss would come to me every day and say, "Hey, Steve, go look up and create an IT strategic plan," or "For our agency, why don't you figure out what we should be doing with Facebook for our agency?" This is more later in '07. Or he would say, "Why don't we create a recruitment strategy for college recruits for our agency?" And at that time, basically what I would do is I would twiddle my thumbs. I would ask my cubicle mate next to me if he had any ideas. But there's really no place online to really learn about all these different issues. And the cool part about government is, in the U.S. alone, there's 20 million public servant. You kind of go with the English-speaking countries of Canada, UK, Australia. There's another 20 million. So you think about all that shared wisdom, knowledge between all those people on all these topics. And GovLoop was really created of how do we share that knowledge between all these people that we're all on the same team. So in contrast to maybe an NBA, the Heat would not share best practices with the Mavericks, or in hockey, the Canucks wouldn't share best practices with the Lightning. In government, we're all on the same team. So GovLoop's about sharing best practices between government.
Well, you know what? Never mind the Canucks and the Lightning. The Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers, would not share best practices with either of those teams. I can tell you that for a fact. No, you know what? Great background there, Stephen. What stuck out for me was the whole public servant junkies. Yourself and your family, and that's just really cool. And frankly, you don't normally hear that kind of enthusiasm with respect to just being a public servant. You don't use the word junkies in the same sentence often when we refer to that. At least I've never heard that before. So it's really refreshing. It's kind of it's exciting to hear that kind of thing. And I think you're right. My experience as a member of GovLoop.com has been pretty much exactly that. And although I have to admit, I am not the most avid user of it, in terms of having 33 profiles online, this being one of them. It's difficult to maintain a lot of what I've got on the go. And because this is our business every day, I have to experiment a lot too. But GovLoop.com, I found, though, as I cruise through it, and what I'd like to do now is bring it up on the screen and just show, for those folks who are not members, if you don't mind, Steve, I'd like to give them a bit of a sense of what we're talking about here. And so why don't you just give us a sense of some of the basic functionality and walk us through why it's become such a large and successful community. In terms of the sharing piece, you said that, and that's a critical piece, obviously. But what do you think are some of the key things that have made it such a success to date?
Cool. Well, first of all, thanks for the public sector junkies, and that's why we try to have a little bit of fun on GovLoop and basically trying to make government cool is part of what we are doing with our government rockstar T-shirts, like I showed you. And I think people should be honored to be public servants, just in the same way people are excited and proud to work at Facebook or Google. Government's facing like the biggest issues, whether it's terrorism or environment or healthcare. We need smart, passionate government employees to really do all those things well. And I think people should be proud of it instead of the stereotype of the lame bureaucrat. And we actually have lanyards on our site that you can get, we kind of wear at work, that say, not your average bureaucrat, and bureaucrats need not apply. So we try to have a lot of fun with the idea.
I actually do, Stephen, Evan and I do actually have GovLoop lanyards. I presented at OpenGov West, BC. And as you know, you're working with some guys up in that area, the region of the world, with respect to govloop.ca and the Canadian side. And at OpenGov West BC, we had some GovLoop lanyards. So we don't have the ones that state that you just mentioned, but we at least have got some GovLoop lanyards. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. Well, yeah, and if people want some, feel free to shoot me an email, founder@govloop.com. But I guess right now, do you want me to walk through the site a little bit, Walter?
Yeah, let's do that. Evan will pull it up on the screen there, and basically what we're looking at is the essentially what would be the homepage if you were logged in. So
cool. So basically you look at GovLoop, and actually we're primarily powered on the Ning platform. We use other technology as well, if people are familiar with Ning. And you land on our homepage, and you basically see in the top carousel some great articles that are written every day. So we have between about 20 blog posts every day on various topics. So if you kind of scroll down, right now you have one on live blogging Google's Innovation for the Nation event. So basically Google was holding an event in DC today about how to make government more innovative. That was pretty cool. We have a blog post from Steph Gray in the UK on telling stories with data. Jeffrey Levy from EPA is writing about, can you tweet what you offer an employer? So this is about HR and social media. Josh talking about project management. So we really cover like tons of different concepts. So it's not just social media, it's topics like project management, telework, human resources. So that's the core of the site. So you'll see that every day, just tons of different articles, different comments. We have an awesome button because I say the word awesome a lot on GovLoop. Instead of a like button, we have an awesome button. So feel free to awesome something. I think that one's kind of fun. On the right side, you'll see basically our latest activity feed, which is pretty normal, but that's kind of what's going on the site, whether people joining groups or commenting on something. On the left, you'll see groups, and basically what groups are very similar to LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups. They're basically subparts of our site. Where people have dialogues and conversations. So, we have a human resources group where people talk about HR issues. A lot of people that work in the human capital field. Over 648 members, almost 500 comments. We have different other ones. A small one, USDA Forest Service. We have one, Gobierno Loop, which is about people that work in government that are trying to do outreach to Hispanics in America. So you just see we have
sorry, Steve, let me interrupt there quickly. Letting you know about a new show, just because you happen to mention work with Hispanics, the Hispanic community in the U.S. Our very own Maria Politi, who is a project manager here at Fuselogic TV, is going to be launching her brand new show this afternoon at 3:30 our time here locally in Mountain Standard. And it's in English, it's called Super Sociable. I can't say what it is in Spanish, but it's a 100% Spanish show. Maria's originally from Argentina, and it's designed specifically to basically communicate with the Hispanic market, not only in the U.S. but also down in South America. Now, it's not government specific necessarily, but I think that she would be happy to interview someone on govloop.com to talk about how, say, for example, things are happening on the government side. I mean, I think that would be great. We should talk more about that going going forward. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no, Carla, who runs the Gobierno group, which basically anyone could create their own group, and we have almost 1,000 groups, so each group has a leader. Carla's great, and we actually have a pretty robust GovLoop Canada group as well, created by some folks, Bowen and Nick Charney and Tom Kearney and folks like that up in Canada.
Yeah,
So we
you
have a
know
pretty
what? I got to tell you, Steve. You can't do anything better than to hang out and work with the guys like Bowen and Nick, and obviously, I want to pay them a little homage. I'd really like to give them a jab, to be frank and honest with you. But no, they're absolutely great guys. They work very, very hard. They're huge advocates for open government in Canada here, especially. So, and it's really cool that there is a site that represents the Canadian public servant as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and Nick beats me up for when Gov looks too American. So he actually created his own GovLoop T-shirt, which is in Canadian colors and the leaf. So
actually, I remember that. I remember that because we were at OpenGov West BC, and he was talking about the shirt and the whole design and everything. So yeah, that's really positive banter back and forth, though.
Yeah, and I actually think so. I mean, that's one thing I always tell people, the value of GovLoop, which is kind of broader social media, is the beauty on, say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when governments across the world were doing eGov and starting to share best practices on the internet. It was just hard to find best practices. You'd have to wait, a couple months until an Accenture or a big company would write a white paper, or if you were lucky enough to go to Brussels for a conference. And my favorite part about Gov 2.0 is really how small the world's become, both through GovLoop and Twitter and other channels, that these people. That I knew you before going on the show. There's a GovLoop Australian group. I'm actually going to Germany next on the 20th. They're actually leveraging GovLoop there, and it's just, I think, really cool to see the power of social media to really connect people that normally wouldn't have met. And I think that's really one of the beauties of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, so now we've got that overview. Let's go into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of it. In terms of the future of GovLoop and connecting the world in a new and interesting way via the social web, what are some of the key business objectives for the organization moving forward, say in the next 6 months to 12 months? What are some of the things without, well, I don't know. Hey, give us a scoop today, Steve. Tell us something today, just between you and I, right? That nobody else should know about what you guys are doing.
Sure, happy to. So we have a pretty simple mission, which is to connect government to improve government. And that's just a topic I've always been passionate about. Before GovLoop, I actually created a nonprofit that's an association called Young Government Leaders, which was connecting young people in government. And basically, that's what we're trying to do over the next 6 months. Really simple. How do we connect more people in more ways? So we're at 45,000 members now. Our goal is how do we get to 50, 75, 100,000 members? And the more ways. So how do we provide more meaningful experiences, both on the site as well as in person? We've got a couple things going on. So we've been doing these monthly online trainings. So one thing we've heard a lot from our members is we really want training. So we love the blogs and discussions, but can you give us 3 experts in real training? And we've been doing that monthly. We actually just got off of one about a half hour ago where we did one on social media as knowledge management. And we have we have 3 or 4 coming up that are around career advice. So one topic we hear a lot about is how do people get ahead in their career? How do you manage your boss? How do you manage down? So we actually have 3 upcoming webinars on that, which is pretty exciting that I'm excited about. Another thing we're doing is we're doing what we call GovUps, which are basically meetups for government employees. So last year we did 12 of them across the U.S., and this year we've already done 2. We've done we were at City Camp, Oklahoma City, and threw a GovUp the day before, where basically we get a big speaker to talk for 15 minutes and then have a social event. And we just got done with one in Raleigh last week. So we're going to do more of those throughout the year. And our big thing we're doing right now is gearing up for our next generation of government summit, which is our 2-day conference at the end of July 28th, 29th. And it's basically a joint venture between GovLoop and my previous group, Young Government Leaders. and it's basically the conference for 20s and 30 somethings in government. So it's Gov2 related, but it's also just kind of generations related. And last year we had over 350 people come. This year we're looking for about 500 to 600 people. And the sneak preview advice that I can't tell you, but I'll leak some of it. We got a couple big people that are in Congress that are probably going to speak, and one famous movie star who may speak. So we're trying to crack that nut. So
Nice.
we're really excited about it. And basically, it's just a fun place where we highlight innovation. And more information on that it's on GovLoop, but it's also nextgengovt.com. So nextgengovt.com. So those are a couple of big things we're working on right now.
There's absolutely no doubt that one of the toughest negotiations you're going to have, Steve, is negotiating with me to come down and speak there. I mean, congressmen and movie stars, those guys are easy nuts to crack. But, let the negotiations begin. I can rip it up down there, no problem whatsoever. But it's going to be a hard negotiation, I can tell you that right now. Okay.
Well, one thing on that before you get going, I have to say some sneak insider information for your team is we were trying to get Jon Stewart to speak, and he cost $300,000 in a private plane. So hopefully you're not as pricey than that.
Oh, I can be more pricey than Jon Stewart. I could be $500,000, and I want a private plane, but I only want red M&Ms. So we'll make it. Actually, I'll go with GovLoop Green if that's fine, no problem. Jon Stewart, oh come on, I can do a better job than Jon Stewart, no problem at all. Joe, what does John know about government really? I mean, he makes jokes about government. He doesn't actually know anything really about government. Okay, so he did this great big 1 million person march in Washington D.C. So what? Big deal. Fine. That was yesterday. That's not today. Okay, so no, hey, listen, man, all the best of the, hopefully you can get the great lineup that you're shooting for. I have no doubt that you'll have the legs to do it. Let's get down to a little bit more on the biggest challenge. I'd like to ask you now, beyond getting a Jon Stewart on a private plane to come speak at your event, what are some of the other larger challenges that you're facing that you've overcome? Like, say, for example, in the last 6 months to a year, what would you consider to be one of your largest challenges overcoming with the organization?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge I faced, and this is the last kind of year and a half, was basically when I first started GovLoop, I was still working at Department of Homeland Security. So this was still basically a pet project that I had a 9 to 5, and GovLoop was what I say my 5 to 9. So when I launched it, I was just working after work in my local Starbucks, came up with the idea, built the website, and it had a slow start, but it really started to grow. And I was really struggling with trying to figure out, how do I devote my energy to this initiative? So basically what I was seeing was there's a real need for people to connect, but how do you get the resources to make it successful? And I think most people have this problem actually with social media. So it's not just the GovLoop example. They may have the same problem if they're in their agency, if they're trying to launch a Facebook page or Twitter or grow their audience. Often the trick is, how do you get the budget and resources? So I think one big hurdle we've done that I think I'm pretty pleased that we made a pretty good transition from a hobby to now we run GovLoop. I have a team that work for me. We have great sponsors like folks like Google and Microsoft and Aetna and Geico, which help fund basically our operation. So, and I
How
think
big
we
is your
found
team?
We have 7 now. So,
okay, great.
And I think we found a good sweet spot. We worked really hard on. I didn't want to do banner advertisements or pop-ups and really make advertising annoying on the site. I really believe in the future of advertising is adding value and engagement. So I think we've really found innovative ways to bring sponsors, our partners, into these conversations in a way that's not shady, it's not annoying, but it actually adds value. So that was actually probably the biggest challenge I faced over the last year and a half. And I wouldn't say it's over, but I think we've made a pretty good evolution. And that actually really excites me, because that means GovLoop has a lot of legs to stand on over the upcoming years to do more things. So we can
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, to get those kinds of organizations involved in with you, I mean, what in those types of discussions, how difficult was it for you to just get them to stop and pay attention to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything, this is maybe more of about entrepreneurship, and I think entrepreneurship and government, it basically takes telling a compelling story, doing something that's really adding value, and being persistent. So, it's much probably like this TV show. It doesn't start overnight, and it takes a lot of work behind the scenes. But I found if you're passionate, have a little bit of fun, and you're persistent, that goes a whole long way. So that's kind of what we've seen over the last year.
Well, so absolutely, it is definitely showing. There's no doubt about that. Now, let's talk about. I know you and I have talked a little bit about having a GovLoop TV show on a regular basis. 45,000 to 50,000 members. Steve, we've got tons of content we could be doing work on here. We could be doing this on a regular basis. Those sponsors that you're already working with are chomping at the bit to be showcased in a way like this, as are, I believe, your members. I think it would be a great idea, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but hey, GovLoop TV, man, let's do something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and I think our biggest um, trick, which I've been kind of reading a lot on, is how to try new things and be focused. So I think that's one thing that really excites that concept. I really like. But the thing we're also trying to do is make sure we do everything we do it well,
Right.
and are really kind of focus on making both our core product really well, so the govloop.com experience well. But when we try new things, whether it's the online training or events or things in the future, potentially like like the TV, that we do them well. And I think that's a struggle I've always had. I'm kind of an ideas guy. I got about 90 things I would like to do. So that's the biggest thing I have is trying to figure out how to scope it so it's really useful for the team and for our members. And that's really what it's all about, listening to what our members really want, since they're the lifeblood of GovLoop.
Well, I was literally going to bring that up. How often do you poll the members on govloop.com for, new innovations? How much feedback do you get from them on a regular basis?
Yeah, all the time, really. So we do a couple things. So we do formal surveys. We do those a couple times a year. That's useful. That's kind of a traditional measure most people do. But we always have forums up on GovLoop, which we'll promote all the time to get feedback. We have office space in DC. We'll bring some of our members together for user groups, and then we also have what we call a VIP elite group of GovLoop community leaders, which are basically kind of our experts that volunteer every day making GovLoop awesome. And we listen to them a ton in terms of what they want. And basically, one recent example was we're working through the process of trying to figure out how to redesign our homepage. It's a little cluttered if you're on it right now. I think there's just so much brilliant content. It's hard to show it all well. And we've been engaging both on GovLoop. We did actually a user group at our DC office. So we're always trying to incorporate feedback. And if anyone ever has any ideas on things we should be doing or people partnering with, shoot me an email, founder@govloop.com, or hit me up on Twitter @govloop.
Oh, well, that's a great segue into wrapping up the show, Steve, because believe it or not, we're like literally working on to the 30-minute mark here on the show.
Wow.
It went by like in a flash, didn't it? Roughly about 30 minutes, I suppose. It has been absolutely fantastic to speak with you. This has been a great show, learning all about govloop.com. You've let folks know where they can reach you if they've got questions and comments on the site or what you're doing. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We're going to get this show wrapped up, and once it's up and on demand, we sure hope that you'll refer to it, and if you maybe embed it on the site and let people know about it, it'd be great too. I mean, a little promotion of the govloop.com never hurts, and of course here at FuseLogic TV, I mean we're sort of media hounds, right? We need to get as much awareness out there for ourselves as well. So, but once again, thank you so very much for being on Gov2 TV. Thank you for giving us an overview of govloop.com. Listen, until our next chat, and hopefully you'll be open to coming back on the show again, where we can get into more of the government-related stuff, and show John Stewart that he really doesn't know a whole heck of a lot about government. we can put a better show together. I have no doubt about that. But hopefully you'll return and come back on here at Fuse Logic TV and spend some more time with us in the future.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. And I'm like a rapper trying to show off my T-shirt. But thanks for having me on. For everyone listening, please go ahead and join GovLoop.com. Takes 30 seconds to join. And Walter, once the video's up, let's definitely embed it. Just send me a note. And thanks for having me on the show, everyone.
No problem, Steve. And have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for watching GovLoop TV. I'm your host, Walter Schwabe. Until next week, stay social.